Hey everybody, Amanda Zieba here, and I'm excited to walk you through the March pre-planned calendar as a part of the Word Nerd Collaborative ELA Middle School Teacher Membership. If you hear very loud noises coming from my ceiling, don't worry, I'm not hosting a herd of elephants. My children are playing basketball inside because as I record this, it's February and 12 degrees outside, and so thus the basketball inside. So don't fear for my health or my head safety. Um, it's just boys playing basketball. Speaking of basketball, March is home to one of my favorite sporting events in the year, which is March Madness, the basketball tournament for college, both men and women. That's going to take a front seat in the lessons this month. Also, we'll touch on St. Patrick's Day and also International Women's History Month. So those three topics are kind of going to be the interest drivers for the lessons that I've pulled together, but there's a lot of other things in there that are going to be great for you, even if you don't love basketball, shamrock shakes, and women. But I mean, who doesn't? So um, let's just dive right into this. I'm going to share my screen and we will see what we've got in store. Go all the way back up to the top. There we are. So you can see on the cover, leaning into those topics of St. Patrick's Day and basketball. In the letter that I send to you right off from the start, I say, here's your month full of pre-planned lesson plans. Lucky you. In the masterclass I led in January, Keep Your Eyes on the Prize, I covered 15 different student engagement strategies. As I put this calendar of ready-to-go resources and lessons together for you, it hit me that we can put several of those strategies into play this month. So check out the additional resources page for a checklist that contains all 15 of them. But just as a quick preview before you actually get into the lessons, here are some of the engagement strategies that we are going to employ this month. We're going to tap into interest, personal interest in topics. We are going to talk about inviting a guest speaker into our class, lean into interdisciplinary connections, especially social studies, introducing a challenge, and thinking about inspiring our students and what that extra boost of magical, sparkly inspiration can do for our kids and their learning. I'm recording this video right now. Once I am done with that, I will put the link here so you can rewatch to hear any of those lessons that you or me talk through anything, explanation. I'll also put the link in there for you to be able to make a copy of this whole Canva document in case there's anything you want to adjust or modify for your students. You'll be able to do that. I just, as always, ask that you keep that for you and you don't, spread that to the whole wide world. All right. Our March calendar for the month, we'll do our April Zoom planning session on March 16th, and we've got our March lunch bunch scheduled for the last Friday of the month, which is March 28th. Here are the first chapter Fridays we are going to cover this month. We're going to highlight House Arrest by K.A. Holt. It's a realistic fiction novel in verse. Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper, a realistic fiction novel in prose. Front Desk by Kelly Yang is a realistic fiction novel, also in prose. And then finally, we're going to round out the month with Dragon Hoops by Jean Lewin Yang, which is a nonfiction graphic novel. So like super interesting combination of those two genres and formats there. I have emails out to all four of these authors to see if they want to join us for the author lunch bunch on March 28th. I have for sure heard back from Sharon Draper. She is fully committed and in, and I'm fingers crossed hoping that we're going to hear back from the others soon. So for sure, we've got one great author lined up, maybe more. For the brain breaks this month, we are going to go over women's history trivia, green trivia, St. Patrick's Day trivia, and then also tournament trivia, aka March Madness trivia. I just can't use the word March Madness on YouTube because it's copyrighted. So tournament trivia, it is. For the writing prompts, we've got 4 full weeks of writing prompts. Weeks 2, 3, and 4 are all similar to how they've been in the past, with 4 prompts Monday through Thursday and then a free write Friday. But for that first week, I did something different and special that I think your students are really going to lean into and like. Lessons. Excuse me. The first lesson I have for you is probably the largest lesson of the bunch. It is a short story about a child who immigrates to the United States from Ireland during the Ellis Island days, and then what happens to him once he gets here, and his experience on the orphan trains that went out of New York City and then into the Midwest and West, where kids had the opportunity to find, a second chance at a happy family. Um, Excited to tell you all about that when we get there. The full story, the audio, the extension activities, the comprehension questions, vocabulary, like everything, all packed up, ready for you. Pick a color, pick a book. When your kids are like, I don't know what to read next, this is an amazing tool to help you make some specific title suggestions. And then the final lesson that is included in this month is some short biographies about famous women. It's going to give you the opportunity to preview or review or introduce what is a biography. What are some characteristics of a biography that separate it or differentiate it from other nonfiction genres? And then also an extension writing activity / research opportunity for your students at the end of that. Our additional resources are that student engagement checklist. I'm super excited to show you as a way to level up something you already have in place in your classroom. A basketball books First Chapter Friday playlist for the sports fans in your classroom. And then a really fun brain break that you can connect to content in your classroom that you are already doing. So let's dive right into our First Chapter Fridays. I'm going to stop sharing and show you what books we have picked out to read. All right, first up is House Arrest by K.A. Holt. If you have students in your class who say they don't like to read, are reluctant readers, if you have a student in your class who just is like always getting in trouble, even though it's not their fault, but like they're just like always the one who's in trouble, they are going to love this book. It's a novel in verse, so it's a quick and it's an easy read, but it will pull at your heartstrings. I think about this character in this book all the time, months after I've read it. I'm going to read you the back because it just does such a great job of encapsulating what this story is about. And then, you'll please stay with me for the rest of the video, but you're going to want to jump into it right away. Stealing is bad. Yeah, I know. But my brother Levi is always so sick and his medicine is always so expensive. I didn't think anyone would notice if I took that credit card, if in one stolen second I bought Levi's medication. But someone did notice. And now I have to prove I'm not a delinquent, that I'm not a total bonehead. That one quick second turned into juvie, a judge, a year of house arrest, a year of this court-ordered journal, a year to avoid messing up and being sent back to juvie so fast it will make my head spin. It's only 1 year, only 52 weeks, only 365 days, only 8,760 hours, only 525,600 minutes. What could go wrong? So this is a story about Timothy, and his brother is so sick and his medicine's so expensive, and he has a single mom and like they're barely getting by and she's working so hard, and he goes to the pharmacy to pick up her meds, the meds for his brother, and the guy in front of him left his credit card on the counter on accident. And so Timothy, in his impulsive nature, just picks up the credit card and he pays for his brother's meds, and he's like, this guy doesn't care, right? Like he's not going to notice. Like, it will help my mom out so much. It will help my brother out so much. And he's not really thinking about doing wrong. He's thinking about doing right. But he gets caught and he gets in a lot of stinking trouble. And then this book is the year that follows that event and what happens to him and his brother and his mom and his community. And it is so good. I love this book so much. And I really think that you and your students will as well. The next book is Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. This was recently turned into a movie, so it's got some buzz around it lately. It is about a girl named Melody. Melody is brilliant. Melody has a photographic memory. She can remember anything she's ever read. She has all these facts stored inside her head, but she has nowhere for those facts to go and no one to talk about those facts with, because Melody has cerebral palsy and she cannot talk. She cannot walk. She cannot even go to the bathroom by herself. And so everybody assumes that her mental capabilities match her physical capabilities. So from the time that she is in preschool until the time she is in fifth grade, they show her ABC videos and little singing animal videos because they think that that's all that she's capable of. And Melody is about ready to go out of her mind with frustration and boredom until one day she gets this device called a MetaTalker, and she gets to finally communicate to other people all the stuff she's got going on in her head. And then she gets involved with her school's quiz bowl team because she's really stinking smart. And she gets the opportunity to share that and to compete with other kids her age, sharing what she knows. But then a couple of really bad and hard things happen, and it puts everything in jeopardy. And this book, you guys, this is a book that I want every teacher to read, that I want every parent to read, that I want every, like, this is just a book that every kid, every human should read because it makes you think about things that you thought you knew. It makes you think about the things that you think about other people. And it is so good. You're gonna love it. All right. Front desk is about Mia Tang. Mia Tang and her family operate a motel. Mia's job is to sit at the front desk, to check people in, to answer the phone. Mia's parents have immigrated to the United States from China, and they're working really, really hard to like earn enough money and to survive and to have food and to like create this American dream life that they were told exists here. Um, Sometimes they're also aware of people who are not achieving that dream. And they need a place to stay. And so when they have an open motel room, they sometimes let these people stay there for free. Because they just want to help them. And like no one's staying in that room anyway. So like what's the big deal? But then the owner finds out of the motel and like everything just explodes into this big horrible trouble. And also, as this is all going on, Mia's got all this pressure from her parents to like be successful in school and be the best kid she can be because they came here and it's so hard and they just want her to be successful, to have a good life. But Mia lacks confidence when it comes to some of her school stuff. But she hears about this writing contest with this big prize, big amount of prize money. And she's like, if we win this prize money, we could buy the motel and we could do whatever we want. We wouldn't have to deal with this mean owner. But like, she's not that confident in her writing skills. So what is she going to do? So many amazing things are wrapped up into this single story. And I know that you guys are going to be rooting for Mia all the way. And that you'll stick her with her to the end to find out what happens. And it's like what you think, but not what you think. So you're gonna love it. All right. Last on my list is a book called Dragon Hoops by Jean Lewin Yang. And you guys, like, I could weight lift with this book. It is a heavy, big book. It also like feels like a basketball on the outside, which is really cool if you're like a tactile, sensory kind of person. This book is a graphic novel. It is about a high school team of basketball players who has almost won the championship like 3 years in a row. They've been to the championship like 3 times and they keep losing that final game. Except for maybe this year they won't. And their instructor, actually Jean Lewin Yang, is like the main character in the book because he's a teacher at that school. And he decides that his next graphic novel is going to be about this team and about their championship run. So if you love sports stories, like about the big game, you will love, love, love this book. The really cool thing about this book is that it also works in the history of basketball. So every once in a while, Jean will stop and put the real modern day championship quest story on hold. And he'll tell us some really cool things about basketball and the way that it's evolved and changed over the years, including the inclusion of the sport. So when the sport was desegregated and both white athletes and athletes of color could play, and when women were allowed to play the game, and when people from foreign countries were coming to the United States to play the game at the at the highest level. I learned so much about the history of this sport that I really love so much. I mean, you can see, like, I got my basketball sweatshirt on today. It does a great job of infusing excitement and history all in the format of a graphic novel. And it's like, I almost wanted to buy a copy of this for every kid on my son's basketball teams. Maybe I still will. Who knows? Okay, so those are the first Chapter Friday books that are highlighted for the month. Like I said, Sharon Draper is for sure coming to our author lunch bunch. I'm hoping that I can get more, but just waiting on those emails. All right, let's pop back into the calendar so we can screen share some more. All the posters are in there for you as well. So if you want to print these out and highlight them to your students, get them excited about what's coming up this month, those are in there. All right. So for the brain breaks this month, we have the four different topics. We have International Women's History Day. The facts about these cover a wide variety of topics. We cover scientists, we cover politicians, we cover athletes, artists, civil rights movement ladies. So all sorts of different astronauts and computer programmers and influential TV show hosts. Like, we cover a wide variety of famous and influential women here, and it's just a fun way to lift up the accomplishments of these women. Then we go into St. Patrick's Day trivia. These are very similar to a lot of the other holiday trivia videos or trivia brain breaks that we've done in the past. Things like parades and celebrations and different countries' involvement and some pop culture type things like, McDonald's Shamrock Shakes and dyeing the river green in Chicago. What percentage of Americans claim Irish heritage? How do other places celebrate St. Patrick's Day around the world? So lots of different fun facts about this holiday there. We also have green trivia. I redid this trivia video, so if you have an old link, it will still work. But it was one of the very first trivia videos that I did, and I've learned some things and I can do better now. I also had some copyrighted images that I wanted to get rid of in the old one. So this is an improved version. Make sure that you download it so that you can have that. I also improved things like the readability of the font. So you're gonna wanna get those new ones. But we've got all sorts of questions. Maybe it's related to sports teams or to novels or to gems, movie characters. What level is a green belt in karate? Some foods that are naturally green. Some Marvel character questions. So lots of good, fun things in there. And then last but not least, we've got tournament trivia. And this is all about the March Madness tournament. Men's, women's, history, teams, colors, mascots. Like, we cover all of it in this tournament trivia quiz. As always, you've got the printable answer sheets, you've got the video. You can do this a wide variety of ways. One of my teacher friends was telling me that they use whiteboards because their print budget is small, and so they can record the answers on the whiteboards and not have to pay to print anything. So that is another amazing application that you can do for that. For the March writing prompt sheets, I did something a little bit different for week 1, and I was leaning into that idea of introducing a challenge, and that when we give our kids a challenge, they likely step up to it in a different way than we say, okay, today's assignment is. If we say, I want to challenge you, we kind of phrase it like, a Mr. Beast challenge or something that Dude Perfect is doing. We can pique their interest a little bit more. So what I have done is I've come up with 5 different writing challenges for each letter in the acronym March. M is for mini mystery. Have students write a short mystery story with a twist ending. Challenge them to get from beginning to end in just 1 page, and bonus points if they can include a red herring. A might be my favorite one, but I am a sports fan. So argumentative writing about an athlete. March Madness is here. So ask students to choose a basketball player or any athlete and argue why they are the GOAT, the greatest of all time. We could include, research and statistics. We could include emotions. We can include like the difficulty level of that sport. Like, we can include all sorts of different things, but kids are going to be able to bring their personal heroes, their personal interests, their personal love of a game into this prompt in a way that they don't always get to tap into their personal interests in school. I mean, you can lean into the whole like Kobe versus Jordan thing, right? You can do Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Like there's so many arguments that are already out there. But it doesn't, like I said, it just doesn't have to be basketball. Like you could pick Simone Biles, or you could pick, a golfer, you could pick a surfer, like you could anything that they're into, Misty Copeland, a dancer, like anything that they're into, they could write an argumentative piece about their favorite author. R is for rewrite the ending. Students take a well-known fairy tale, myth, or book scene and rewrite the ending in a surprising way. You could level this prompt up specifically for the month of March by reading an Irish folk tale and then rewriting the ending. This link is going to take you to a page that has several Irish folk tales listed on here and linked on here. And so you just click on that one, and then you can learn all about that myth or legend, and do some reading, and then have that reading inform their writing. So super, super fun connection to St. Patrick's Day. C is for comic creation. March is Women's History Month. Write a short story in the form of a comic strip that features a famous woman or in which a female character is the hero. And then H is haiku for spring. March 20th is the first day of spring. Have students write a nature-inspired haiku to celebrate the season. If you're unfamiliar with this poetry format, or your students are and you want to introduce them to it or do a quick review, this link will take you to this website that gives you an overview of what is a haiku, and it gives you an example as well. So each of these writing prompts have a page like usual. Sorry for scrolling so fast. Have a printable page as usual and a slide as usual. If you want to do them just like as a regular prompt, go for it. If you want to do one of these a week, go for it. So like for the whole first week, we're just going to work on the mystery. The whole second week, we're just going to work on the arguments about the best athlete, one a week. You could let your students pick one of the 5 that they want to just focus on and work on it for a whole week. There's lots of different flexibility here, your students, but it's kind of a different way to shake up the writing prompt routine if your kids are looking for something different. Another thing that I thought you could do, I'm going to go back up here to this additional ideas here. Sorry for scrolling. Is that after they're done writing, you could have students submit their favorites of their completed writing pieces to you via Google Docs, and then remove their names and ask students to give anonymous feedback to one another. I know that one of the members of the collaborative was asking me, like, how do you have time to give feedback to all of the students for everything they write? And the answer is I don't. And you maybe don't have to look at everything they write. This would be an opportunity for students to give each other feedback and give you a little bit of a break. You could also have them vote on which ones they think is the best. What's the best mystery? What's the best arguments for an athlete? And then give out some awards like most mysterious, arguably the best athlete arguments, revision rock star, comic champion, happiest haiku. You can come up with some other awards, but I love alliteration, so I made these ones up for you. We also talked in our planning session while we were discussing this about putting these on Padlet, about the students putting their stories on Padlet and then responding to each other that way, because there's the capability of responding anonymously on there. And I think that especially in middle school with all the popularity games and like the shyness and whatnot, like being able to share what you're thinking without putting your name by it could be a great tool. I know that we also discussed middle schoolers will be middle schoolers and use that anonymity to do nefarious things. And so you'd have to put some boundaries and guidelines on this. Again, your students and what they would need, the structure they'd need to be able to communicate in that way. But just another potential platform or idea for you to use would be Google Docs or Padlet. When I look at the rest of the prompts for this month, There are a lot of ones that I really enjoy. Um, these two right here, 65 and 75, use exemplary text sentences from novels that you can build off of. This one right here is I lined it up so that it would be on St. Patrick's Day, asks you like if you were the luckiest person in the world for one day, what would you do? Um, I really liked them and highlights three other ones that I thought kids would really like and would be fun. Pretend that you have invented a new kind of popsicle that never melts. You have the opportunity to sell them from a beachside shop. Write a slogan or tagline as well as a delicious description you would use to help make sales. So really focusing on descriptive writing there. Another one is kind of a funny prank. You open your refrigerator to find that someone has drawn faces on all of the eggs. Who in your house has pulled this prank and what happens next? And then this other one, there's lots of continue the story ones, but I know that not everybody likes that style, so I tried to include some different ones this time. And this one says you've been hired to write the description that accompanies this picture in a travel brochure. The location is the Blue Ridge Mountains in Asheville, North Carolina. You could just have your students explain and describe this picture, or you could click on this link and do some background research on the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, and then have some information with which to write about a more informed piece. So again, there's a writing prompt for every single day of the month and a wide variety. Hopefully your kids will really enjoy. Lessons. For this lesson, I pulled out a short story that is included in my book, Orphan Train Writers. It's all about a boy named William who immigrates to the United States from Ireland back in the Ellis Island days. And his father is not allowed to enter the country because he's sick. He has tuberculosis. And he has to come into the country by himself and gets connected with the orphan trains and the Children's Aid Society in New York City, and then continues his journey to find a new family. In this resource, I've got the full text for the story there that you can print out and read or download a PDF and have the students read on screen. I also have the QR code that will take you directly to the YouTube read aloud video of the whole story. It's 32 minutes long to listen to the whole thing. So if I were doing this in class, I would probably break it up into 2 or 3 days of listening so they're not just sitting and getting for 30 minutes. But then after they read, I have lots of extension activities, comprehension, vocabulary for them to do with it. So first up is vocabulary. Here are some words that I think they might need a little help with. And then the tasks beyond that are create flashcards using a thesaurus, alphabetize your flashcards, sort your flashcards into 3 piles, nouns, verbs, and adjectives, select 2 words and write a sentence that includes both. So a little bit of things that they can do to help them practice those vocabulary words. Comprehension activities, we have true, false, we have multiple choice. We've got journal questions that you could either use as discussion questions or as journal rights. Some extension activities that involve map work, factor opinion, some more questions and answers that you could use as journals. A little bit of figurative language practice and some event sequencing. And then some more creative applications for this with a creative writing prompt, drawing a poster, doing a drawing of a character, and then a creative arts would be to create a menu for one of the restaurants that's mentioned in the book. So you could look through your scope and sequence of standards you've covered this year and maybe where your gaps are, and then look through this unit study related to the short story and say like, ooh, these are the 3 things that I want to do. Like you wouldn't necessarily have to do all of them. You could, but if you just want to pick out the skills or the standards that you're needing to cover and haven't covered yet, this provides a wide variety of them. I also think that this story is great to use in like an RTI situation where you have a small group of kids who need some additional skill instruction, and this is going to cover a wide variety of them. You should know that the story is written at a 4.3. Personally, I believe when we're asking our students to practice grade level skills, we shouldn't always be forcing them to read grade level text, because if they can't complete the task, it's more difficult to know, did they not complete the task because they didn't understand the text or because they don't know how to do the skill? So when we give them reading text a little bit lower than their grade level, if they can't do the skill, we likely know that it's because of the skill and not because of the text level. So that's just my personal opinion in approaching things like this, but there you have it. All right, pick a book, pick a color. Sometimes, a lot of times, our kids will say, "I don't know what to read. I don't know what book I want to read." And so this is an activity that you can do with them called Pick a Color, Pick a Book. There is a worksheet connected to this that you can give to them. The worksheet looks like this. So you'll give them this worksheet and then you will go through this slideshow. You will tell them pick a color, and then I'm going to tell you what books to read based on that color. There are all of these different slide categories that you will go through: genre, mood, novel and verse, historical fiction, books with animals. I don't even like to read. Creepy books, nonfiction books, graphic novels, sports, foreign country settings. If you liked this, then you'll love. And there's two different versions of them, and then some blank slides for you to create your own if you want. So let me show you how this works. So, what is your favorite genre? What kind of genre do you like to read? I really like fantasy. Okay, so you're gonna write down yellow, and then the book Gregor the Overlander. That's what I would recommend to you. See how this works again with mood. What kind of mood are you in? Oh, I am in a feisty mood. I'm in a feisty mood, and so then I would recommend that you read Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. Okay, novel and verse. What do you want your novel and verse to be about? I want my novel and verse to be an underdog story. Okay, then you're going to read House Arrest by K.A. Holt. So you'll go through these slides and ask them to pick a color for all of these things, and then write down the title. And then afterwards, they can take that list that they've written down, this list, and they can then either go to the First Chapter Friday playlist and find that book and listen to the first chapter, or they can just take their list to the library like a shopping list and pick out and further explore the books that they wrote down that they would be interested in. So it's a very specific reading recommendation activity that will hopefully spark their attention and lead them to some really great books, rather than just wandering the library aimlessly looking for book covers that appeal to them. The last lesson that we have in here are some biographies about famous women. This mini lesson is going to overview what is a biography and like the characteristics that differentiate it from other genres. And then it is also going to have a review of what does it mean to annotate a text, to take what we're thinking while we're reading and put it down on the page. And it gives you some, symbols that you can write down rather than necessarily writing out full sentences. So you can do emojis, stars and hearts, exclamation points, question marks, or connections, either TS for text to self, TT for text to text, or TW for text to world. So you can use this paper to either introduce your kids to text annotating or review what that process looks like. And then we've got 4 mini biographies about 4 famous women in history. We've got the text annotation key up here, but they can read and then they can practice annotating. So they have the opportunity to learn about Mae Jemison, Princess Diana, Malala Yousafzai, and Susan B. Anthony. And then if you want, you could extend your learning by asking your students to research and write their own mini bios of other famous women. You can use the International Women's History Month trivia to jumpstart their brainstorming process of who they might like to write about. Or I've included a list below of 25 influential women in the last 100 years in 5 different categories of famousness. With their final products, students could either create a couple more questions, and you guys, for like a trivia question, you guys could have your secondary a trivia question game, brain break that you make together as a group, or students could annotate each other's mini bios, re-practicing again those skills. So lots of different ways that you could implement this. Also, lots of boxes that we are checking off um, on that standard scope and sequence. All right, additional resources. We are almost done, you guys. These 3 pages, these next 3 pages are going to go through the 15 student engagement strategies that I shared with people in my student engagement masterclass. And in the first column, we're going to just call out what the strategy is. In the second column, we're going to give ideas of how to implement that strategy. And then in the third column, I'm going to do a little note, call out either a tip to level up this strategy or maybe a statistic or piece of research that backs that strategy up. And so we've got all 15 of them spread out over the 3 pages. And so if you already have a unit that you do and you're like, gosh, like kids are just kind of getting kind of bored with this, or they don't really love this one, it's their least favorite unit of the whole year, like how can I level that up? Rather than create something brand new from scratch, how can you take what you're already doing and incorporate 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these student engagement strategies to make it better? And I say this because sometimes we're forced to teach a unit based on like state standards or our principal's recommendations or a co-teacher who's just not giving it up, even though you don't want to do that lesson anymore. These are ways that you can still flexibly improve the lesson, even when you feel like you can't change the lesson. I hope that makes sense. And I'm sorry if you're in that situation. On the last page of that additional resource, I show you 3 different examples of lessons and the ways that you can level up them using these engagement strategies. Basketball First Chapter Friday playlist. If you've got some sports fans in your classroom who are obsessed with basketball and you want to maximize that interest level with some sporty books all focused on basketball, here's that playlist for you. There are 5 of them there. If you know more basketball books that your kids love, can you please email them to me or put them in the comments of this YouTube video? Because I would love to add to this playlist. I would love for this playlist to be 15 books long rather than 5. And last but not least is this balloon brain break, again, kind of leaning into the basketball theme of the month. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hop over to Instagram and I'm gonna show you the game, the post that sparked this idea for me so you can understand it, and then we'll come back and talk about how to connect it to academics. Okay, so what you do is you tape off an area in your classroom, you put a collection container, garbage can, whatever, basket, bucket, and then all of these balls in there, and you have to put as many balls into the basket as you can while keeping the balloon afloat. Okay, so just a fun, silly brain break. But we can level this up by connecting a review process to the balls that we collect. So you've done the brain break. Your students have their bucket with the balls in it, and you say to them, okay, how many yellow balls do you have in your bucket? Oh, where did it go? Hang on. We'll look at the slides version because you'll be able to see it bigger. For every yellow ball that you have in your bucket, I need you to tell me a character from our whole class read aloud. Or for every green, if you have a green ball in your bucket, I need you to tell me whose point of view is this story from. And we've got 4 different ones lined up here, so you can use it to review story elements, to review genre, to review story formats, to review parts of speech, or I have a blank one there for something else that you want to review. If you only have one set of the balls, you could have them write down on a Post-it note, how many green did you have, how many orange, how many blue, and then they need to provide that many responses back to you. If you're a content area teacher, like you could use this review like in science, very easily, and social, like any other content area, perhaps even easier than you could in ELA. So using this as a fun review and incorporating some of that like kinesthetic learning, some of that teamwork, camaraderie. So I just thought it was really fun. And that is the last thing in our March pre-plans calendar. Thank you so much for sticking around to hear all of the goodness. If you got any questions, you can email me at any time. And I think that's it. I'm going to go get some more tea because I have a scratchy throat after talking to you guys for 45 minutes. I guess I don't even know how long it was, but I'm grateful you're here. I am so honored to have the opportunity to help you level up what you're doing with your students in your classroom, and I'm grateful that you include me as a partner. Happy March. Go Badgers. Really hoping that this is their year for March Madness. That's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. I will see you guys again next time. Happy March, happy teaching.